Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. This is Dennis, as always, coming to you after quite the busy day for the show, as you all saw. Of course, we're reporting on the games as such, posting up some other stuff. But as I've been promising to you, these holidays are going to be a bit more fun than usual, plan-wise. And that started earlier today. With one of the most fun recordings I've ever done. So, as I announced on socials, and I wanted to put up this announcement as the first thing that you all will hear. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Greek time, the show is going to be in Greek. So, if you so wish to handle it with subtitles for those of you that are a big portion of my foreign audience, and for the rest of you, of course, 6 p.m. Do keep an eye out for the thing I'm going to promote. Now, before I get into the game, or should I close out with it? Never mind. I'll close out with it because I just want to say some stuff, and this is probably going to be the last live show before Christmas. I know there's going to be one in between, and I am also planning another little special video to close out 2025. So I'll leave the wishes for later, and I'll get right into the football. Because God knows what happened yesterday was not football. Now, while we're chatting, while I'm saying my thoughts, of course, I'm going to keep an eye out on the AEK game that's currently at halftime. AEK is down 0-1 to OFI, which means we will close out 2025 on top of the Super League despite the draw against KIF. But leaving that aside for now and focusing on the actual draw against KIF. Now, I did actually talk about most of my thoughts as calmly as I could and as non-ban-worthy as I could, despite me dropping a C-bomb or two over on Twitter. There is a lot of things to touch on yesterday's game, and yet most of them aren't football related, sadly. And I think the best way to open up is this comment right here. The time waster of the match, Ramirez. Time wasting. A concept I've sometimes understood and sometimes despised. It's expected for a team as small as KIF to come to the Karaiskaki and time waste trying to hold out a draw. Teams have done it before. Lamia has done it before. Asteras has done it before. Kalithea, speaking of losing points before the holidays, last year, if you'll remember, I'm pretty sure we closed out the year with a win against Lamia, if I'm not completely mistaken. But right before that win against Lamia was Kalithea, that draw against Kalithea, which was not as bad as yesterday, but quite similar to yesterday. I'm gonna try my best. This probably isn't gonna be the longest of shows as well, right? But I'm gonna try my best to not get absolutely heated. Same for the reasoning being my chair, which I thought I had fixed. I don't quite understand, and I'll get into the football, I swear. I don't quite understand why there hasn't been an implemented rule for this. I don't quite understand how we're standing here and actually watching the game back, and Ramirez, for example, does not get booked for time wasting. Others did. Ramirez didn't somehow. And I don't know how we're standing here with a team that we know what KIF is. Let's not lie to ourselves. We are talking about the Greek Super League, and we are talking about stuff that's happening and stuff that's gonna happen. But I don't really get. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Okay? But I don't really get how that can happen and we can just bypass it like it's a normal game. And again, going back to what I said after the game yesterday, am I blaming the lost points on that specifically? No, there's much worse. Am I going to put a spotlight on something I think is ridiculous at minimum? Yes, I am. Because the glaring, absolutely glaring example of a mid-table team can play wonderful football if they have ambitions is this year's Olympiacos. We've seen it before many times, and I'm not saying that this year's Olympiacos is a team that's first appeared in the Super League. It's happened with Asteras, it's happened with Atromitos, and usually these teams sell out. But seeing a team like Olympiacos chasing with their heart a European promotion, while you're seeing a team like KIF do what they did yesterday, you're seeing a team like AEL, for example, who's the other newly promoted team, do similar stuff, just be way lower in the table because of the lack of quality compared to KIF. And it goes back to strengthen my point as well. Because KIF is a team that could compete with Olympiacos if they were a serious run club and not serving others' benefit. But so be it, I guess, after a point. I guess you have to just sit back and say so be it, right? And you have to look eternally. And if you look internally, you'll see issues. You'll see a lot of issues. And you'll see a glaring issue that we've been talking about here on this show for a while now. And that glaring issue that we've been talking about on this show is direct attack and effectiveness. Direct attack. I am well aware on how Mendy plays, and I'm not as mad as others are for this specific, not fault because it's not a fault, for the specific system that Mendy plays. It's crossing focus, and sometimes, most times, that's fine. But a running thing that we've seen with Mendilibar is that when we do play these teams, we can rarely, very rarely be comfortable. I'm not going to say win. We can very rarely be comfortable. And I am gonna go back and again, I am gonna specify this so my words don't get taken out of context. I love Mendilibar. He's a wonderful coach. He's still, for me, and he will always be our best coach yet. And he will still, in my opinion, bring us a lot more successful moments and historic moments, especially now that he rightfully, and I'm gonna say that loudly for the people in the back, renewed until 2027. Rightfully renewed, because some stuff that's been written lately is utterly nonsensical. At the least, some stuff that's been written lately about Jose Luis Mendilibar are utterly nonsensical. So, moving on from that, when it comes to teams like KIF, when it comes to teams like Kalixea last season, when it comes to these lower Super League table teams that just love to sit back, waste time, again, what we saw yesterday, in my memory, short as it may be, we haven't really seen it this bad before. But I'll try and talk football-wise. With these low block teams, there are specific players that can break them. And those specific players didn't really play yesterday. Chiquinho is one of them. Taremi on his day is another. But the main players that can destroy these things are Daniel Podence, who was out with injury. I'll semi-hesitantly say Gelson, because Gelson on his day can get you at minimum the big chance you need against these teams. And as a main third, others can as well. But as a main third, I'll say Yusuf Yazic. And with what's happening with Yusuf Yazic, I've said this many times, and I'm not gonna push against the wants of the coach. But sometimes Mendy needs to step out of his comfort zone. I'm not gonna be someone that says he needs to change the way he plays, he needs this, he needs that. But I am gonna bring up a counter argument I brought up yesterday when talking to some people that I was messaging with. Flip the Nascimento substitution on the 74th minute, 75th, with Yazidis on the 87th, 88th. Flip those two, and I think we win the game. Yusuf Yazic is a player that has 5 goals and 6 assists, that loves it here. And he shows it every time he plays. He knows the fans love him. He loves the fans back. He's shown it many times. And yet, I am aware that he's not Mendilibar style. And this is a clip that's gotten semi-attention I put up on social. He's sadly gonna continue being the most misused player of the year. Is that gonna cost us as Olympiacos? Sure. In my opinion, it already has. And the glaring example is his non-inclusion in the Champions League list and the game against Paphos. And another glaring example that's way more recent is yesterday. I don't think Yazic will leave in January, solely because, as I said, he seems to love it here. He's more than effective every time he plays. But January and after, when we bring in the people that we're going to bring in, and I'll get into that in a bit, I'm going to try not to get into a lot of transfer talk today. I'd love some suggestions of people you'd want to see in the comments But I don't want to get into some transfer talk on a solo show. I'd rather wait until Gav is back. Gav was going to be here today, but he's sick, sadly. So, of course, I wish him the best. When we go on and bring these people in, whoever we're going to bring in January, Yazici and his playing time need to move up. Hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to make the deserved Champions League knockouts. The first thing that needs to happen when we do so is we need to take Nascimento, nothing on him. We need to take Nascimento out of the list and leave him for Super League games only, take Yazici and put him in. Because as much as I love the Champions League approach of, no, we're going to bring it to you and whatever happens, happens, you need the creativity, especially in the knockouts. And you need the effectiveness, especially in the knockouts. And this kind of spirals to another point that I had. And that's the missed goddamn chances. And we'll talk about that more when I get into the 11 and performances and stuff. But especially with the glaring spotlight falling on Gabriel Strefecha, this is probably the main reason I'm not blaming the draw on KIF's shenanigans. Do I wish them the worst of relegation? Yes, I do. But solely from the missed chances of Mehdi Taremi, Gabriel Strefecha, and Roman Yaremchuk, we should have won the goddamn game. And as I said, glaring spotlight falls sadly on Strefecha and that incredible goddamn run that he did, only to send the ball just 5 miles besides the goal. I didn't want to immediately get into performances, but I'll speak a bit about Strefecha. I've defended Strefecha on this show many times, and he's proven me both right and wrong. He's proven me right in showing up in big games like Kairat, like he also played quite well against Madrid. He's also showed that I'm right in his efforts in games like Asteras, in the game where he scored the goal. He also has the stats to back him up. He has the stats to back him up, because you can't say that a player with a goal and 6 assists is a bad performing player. That's not my problem with Strefecha personally. It's not even the confidence. Gabriel Strefecha, for me, has a role that he shouldn't have. And that's not on Mendy, that's not on the team, that's not on anyone but himself. Gabriel Strefecha, at least yesterday, didn't look like a winger. He didn't look like a winger. And dare I say, again, why couldn't have Yusuf Yazici started over Gabriel Strefecha? Why couldn't have we seen a player like Pneumonilis play? And yes, I'm gonna preach that to the moons, knock that on its goddamn head. Pneumonides deserves some more first team chances. Pneumonides, by the way, who scored again with the beating. Why? Why are we sitting here and still wondering when is an 8 million euro player gonna perform not to our standards, to his? We remember the Fabregas praise, right? We're talking about a player that knows a metric factor of football. And yet, in moments where you need him, he'll show you the football that he knows. Because I'm going to tackle the same thing again. You're behind the halfway line in your own half. The KIF players pass it between themselves. You pop up out of seemingly nowhere. You take the ball effortlessly. You fly down the pitch with no one there to catch you. And you miss using your opposite foot, putting the finesse of the shot the complete wrong way. If that doesn't describe what Strefetsa has done up to now for Olympiacos, I don't know what does. He does everything perfectly up until the final decision. And yes, he's gotten unlucky. I've been the first one to say that he's gotten very unlucky. And I still believe that more goals will come. I believe that Strefetsa will perform. But it's the first glaring time where the spotlight for lost points has fallen straight on him. And that can go two ways. He works on his flow within this holiday period, and right when we're back in a crucial moment of games like Super Cup, Champions League games, some crucial games in the Super League, and the Cup. Don't forget the Cup, where we need everyone to play at the top of their game, or this fucks with his confidence and we're a win year down. January is gonna be interesting. Very, very interesting. I didn't want the rant for Strefetsa to be that long. I can now see that Ike has equalized, which still has us on top of the Super League. I did want to keep an eye out on that. I'll try keeping an eye out on that more. But let's get more into the game. Let's get into the 11. Let's get more into performances, actually. Come on, Ofi. I couldn't agree with this comment more right now. I hope the Ike cares that is there still continues to be for years on end. Now, we're not going to start calling me Jolakis. I am fully aware that the Jolakis of this season as a whole is not the Jolakis we're used to. I am fully aware that he went through a down period, okay? But we're also talking about a Jolakis that up until this game had 4 clean sheets on the bounce. We're also talking about a Jolakis that's been more crucial than people give him credit for this season. And we're also somehow, and call me biased if you want, I am all for disagreement. In a play in which I'm pretty sure it's Lorenzo Pirola and not Panos Retsos that is just up in the midfield when Pantelides is running down the wing. And Francisco Ortega gets completely outrun. We're somehow blaming Tsolakis, solely Tsolakis. Because I did say that that his positioning was a bit questionable on that goal. But again, he was missing a centre back in front of him. Again, I can't remember if it was Pirola or Retsos. I haven't had time today to watch the highlights back. So do correct me if I'm wrong on that being Pirola. He was put in a one-on-one situation again from a weird angle where he had no cover beside him. Am I gonna put some blame on him? Yes, of course. Don't want to be completely biased, and as I said with Mendilibar yesterday on the socials, no one is above the law of criticism, right? But the fact that the thing that I kept talking about, that there has, and the thing that's been true ever since I started watching football like 12 years ago, the fact that there has to only be one scapegoat, and that scapegoat has to be Greek. The fact that that scapegoat has to be Greek is something that needs to stop. We need to criticize equally. We need to focus on helping the team with our criticism and not be ridiculous ourselves. Let's not be who we mock. Pretty please. Now, speaking of the back line in general, first things first, I am hoping and praying Pirola is fine. I've read nothing on the Pirola injury today. For those of you that may know something, do let me know if possible, if there are any news on what Pirola has. But Pirola and Retsos, as much as they weren't really needed, weren't really amazing as well. As a duo, they're almost flawless, but they were on a bad night. And now, the two sides decide. I have an agreement and a disagreement with the majority, right? Roddy, for a start. I don't know what's happening with Roddy. Don't know if it's time catching up. I don't know if he's just having a bad run of form. I don't know if he's still finding his footing after the long injury that he had. But I feel like I'm starting to sound like a bit of a broken record. I don't know why Costinha didn't start yesterday. It's not like we're going to have any serious run of games anytime soon. I don't know why we didn't go with a necessity of Costinha up to now, but Roddy needs to be, for a while at least, Roddy needs to be our second man. And especially on the run of games that will come up after the holidays, the management between Roddy and Costinha needs to be treated very, very carefully. We need to treat that perhaps more carefully, perhaps more carefully than ever. Because on that run of games that is going to come up, a lot of stuff is going to be presented for the future, and how our season is going to be determined in a big level on these games. So man management is going to be as important as coaching, and hopefully we have everyone healthy as well, because it is the goddamn holidays. On the other side, though, I read a lot of stuff about Ortega. And yeah, in my opinion, the way that he got dusted by Pandelidis is a fault of his as well as is everyone's that played a part in that mistake towards the Kifisya equalizer. But on a general note, especially starting out, Ortega is starting to show very positive signs again. We know his positives, we know his negatives, right? But if Ortega continues like that, and there has been a lot of talk about Bruno's place in this team, and up to a point I agree that perhaps we should be looking for a Bruno replacement. I don't know how that will go, and I really don't want to jump the gun and say that, yeah, this player from this squad doesn't deserve to be here. But if someone like Kostas Tsimikas is on the market and is a possibility, and again, I'm not leaning into the rumors, I'm throwing out an example. There's nothing concrete yet. But if we're standing at a place where we can get Kostas Tsimikas, in my opinion, we should get Kostas Tsimikas. And equal examples, right? Especially an up if he's Greek. Because we need the passports as well. Let's not forget the passport situation that the Greek problem that we're perhaps going to be facing next summer. But again, even if he's not, I would be hesitantly leaning towards being favorable for the sale of Bruno and Yamaechi if it comes up. But focusing solely on Ortega now, in a position that he's finding himself in with no true backup, we're seeing again an Ortega that's fighting for every ball, that's there every single time. And we're seeing an Ortega that's reminiscent of the good old Ortega, that's not a weakling in the 11, but sometimes is even the main reason that's holding that left side and the strongest link of that left side. And he certainly was yesterday. And again, I am going to stand to disagree with most opinions here. Now, moving on to the midfield of arguably our best midfield duo there, of Santi Ese and Christos Zagitis. I mentioned players that could break that Kifisya side and sides like Kifisya, and one of them is Mouzakitis, which doesn't really say much because we're talking about a player that can break even the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in regards to teams. But again, Mouzakitis bossed that goddamn midfield, and he had a few chances himself. The only thing Mouzakitis proved yesterday that he has the passing vision of an up-and-coming Tony fucking Kroos, and he still has that rocket of a shot if needed. And with Ese behind him doing the dirty work that needed, despite it not being that needed against Kifisya, for both reasons that not as much football was played, and we weren't threatened either way, except from that one goddamn play, which led to the one goddamn goal that Kifisya had. I'm still very confidently and comfortably saying that Ese Mouzakitis is our best midfield duo running. Chiquinho, Taremi, and Gabriel Stravecha. Chiquinho first. I'm trying to be as calm as possible. Chiquinho can play the 8, and Chiquinho can play the 10 and be the best player on the team. Why did Chiquinho spend the first goddamn half playing as a right winger? please let's not do this again. Like, I get it was a necessity. Okay. But I'd rather it flipped. When you plop Chiquinho on the right side, he's gonna perform because he is Chiquinho. He can play anywhere you put him. But you're taking away so many positives by putting him there. And I get the interchange with Taremi. Taremi was out on the wing for a while. But we saw basically nothing from Chiquinho because he was where he was. Which minimized our creativity problem. Not minimized, it minimized our creativity and showed even more of the problem, is what I was meant to say. And then you go to the middle and Taremi, who masterfully won the penalty and scored it, converted it, which eventually did get us the draw and saved us from a very embarrassing end to 2025. But aside from the penalty, Taremi and Yaremchuk, and again, I'm not saying that they're bad, I trust them both blindly still. But the runs they got and the chances they wasted are as costly, not as costly, a bit less costly than Strefetsa, but still quite costly in what we saw. And it's the biggest problem here. Player-wise, it's the biggest problem. Wasted chances. And we need to fix that faster than ever. Subs-wise, Julian Biancon, of course, came in for the injured. Lorenzo Pirola didn't need to do a goddamn thing. Even the thing that Julian should have done is that he should have won the penalty at the end where Ramirez came out, missed the ball completely and elbowed Julian Biancon in the face, but of course the referee didn't even go and see it. But I'm gonna try not to focus on the refereeing aspect of the game. I'm gonna try my best because Evangelu just letting what happened happen. It's something arguably not even worth it. Zelson, of course, Zelson was reportedly sick. Zelson did have a cold, did have the flu. I don't know what he did have. He was okay. Didn't really have the chance to do much. Perhaps should have done a bit more coming in. Nascimento was great. And again, I said it before when I brought up the example. I only said the Nascimento sub because it was the latest one before Yusuf Yazidze. If I could have, I would have chosen for us to bring Yusuf Yazidze on at half time. And of course, Yusuf Yazidze, who barely had any time to play. And honestly, that's it for the game in my book. And I are winning. And I think I'm gonna close that, and I think that's the best way, unless Offie pull off miracle. We're closing 2025 second in the league, which isn't anything insane. Like, I don't want to present it as, oh, it's the end of the world, we're closing the year second. We've seen it many times where people were celebrating the title by ending the year first, and then we came back and embarrassed them. Same has happened with AEK. But we shouldn't be closing the year second. The last two games, whether it's on the field, whether it's off the field, parameters, leave Aris out the window. Kifsia should have been a win. I presented it as a must win, and in my opinion, it was. Solely for the momentum. Now the team needs to sit the fuck down, discuss everything, and when they come back to training, they need to perform at the top of their game, win the games we must, and attack everything like Olympiacos should be attacking everything. And we will bounce back. We will 1,000% bounce back. I believe that. But it needs time, and it needs both support and criticism. They come as one another. So I am hoping that in the next 10 minutes I actually see an off equalizer. I just wanted to take a moment and wish you all the happiest of holidays and a wonderful Christmas. I wanted to wish you all to spend a lovely Christmas with your loved ones, with your friends, with your family, with whoever. I am gonna probably not gonna post the thank you video before Christmas. I am gonna post something on the socials before Christmas, so that's for sure. I am gonna plan, as I said, there is gonna be a show between Christmas and New Year, so I'm not gonna get into the whole New Year spiel. But I am gonna post a thank you video before New Year's, after the show in between as well. Like maybe on New Year's Eve, maybe on New Year's Day, as something already pre-recorded, of course. But Christmas-wise, I honestly wish you all the best. You've made this holiday period more than special for me, because with how circumstances went and with how 2025 ended, I've been very open to you all that it wasn't the best of years, life-wise. It was 2025 was something. For those of you that know me a bit more, you know what I'm talking about. But I've always been open with you all on everything. But you made it very special, and your support has not only kept me going, but and not even kept me at a steady pace. Your support has kept me improving. So, as I slowly close off for today, socials will be active, of course, but probably Christmas Day, where nothing will probably happen, where I'll post my detailed Christmas wishes, but probably not going to report on anything else. So live-wise, have a wonderful Christmas, and thank you isn't enough to end the show, but I will see you all soon. And as this amazing comment says, we will win the title, and I don't want anyone to have a doubt in Mendilibar, the team, or anything in between. You all are wonderful, and I hope your Christmas is as wonderful as you are. See you soon. Thank you.